Welcome, everyone. Simon Rosenberg back with another really remarkable event tonight. My dear old friend, Cory Booker, Senator Cory Booker is with us tonight. Welcome, Cory.
Thanks, Ben. You were one of those people that can say you've known me since I had hair.
Well, we met in your first successful race for mayor, and we've known each other a long time. And I'm just, feel like a proud supporter, backer, father of just
But more
watching
than that,
your.
like
Yeah.
you influenced a lot of my thinking. You were a key advisor to me back then and helped to really shape my early approach to politics. And you're really one of those people out there that I think is a symbol of for me where we need to go as a party, and more than that, much more important, party where we need to go as a country.
Well, Cory, I appreciate that, and I'm calling you Cory and not Senator. I hope your
Please,
staff doesn't get mad.
No, we're old friends. And I would be disappointed if you're calling me.
Listen, here's how I want to start tonight, and just thank you for doing this. Is that I know how busy you are; it's a crazy time. But in March, you kind of lit the world on fire, and you gave this extraordinary speech over 25 hours at the end of March. Can you just remind us about why you decided to do it, given where we are today, just the thought process, the need, the necessity, the reason you felt you had to do it, given what's happening in Congress now?
Look, I think that we were all feeling a little down and discouraged. And it came after a CR fight back then, if you'll remember, where we gave them, I think a number of us went over and gave them the votes they needed to kick things down the road. And every time I would go home in February and March, people would be saying to me, why aren't you guys fighting more? And I actually got into a back and forth in a supermarket with somebody who knew me since my days in Newark, since a voter of mine in a supermarket that we helped bring when I was mayor. And they just said, wait a minute, where's the guy that did a 10-day hunger strike in the projects that got us all motivated to do something about that crisis? Where's the guy that lived in a mobile home and parked it on the worst drug corners? He basically said, you showed us that leadership is not a position or a title, it's action and an example. These are extraordinary times. They call for an extraordinary fight. And he was 100% right. And we went back and brainstormed what could we be doing to try to be lead by example and try to galvanize or ignite folks who are feeling a little discouraged, and frankly elevate the voices of real Americans that are being affected by what Donald Trump is doing, to really show that this is not left or right. This is a president taking actions that are hurting millions of Americans. And I think that's what was one of the most satisfactory things for me, is the letters that we read, the voices that we brought to the floor. They really seemed to break through and resonate in a way that was beyond which we had hoped. And I remember it was days before the No Kings rally.
Yep.
And I will never forget, from all over the country, people sending me signs who said, I'm out here because if Cory Booker could stand for 25 hours, I can come out this afternoon, or quotes from the speech that really helped to resonate. And I think we all have the power to do is that when we stand up, we don't stand alone. What we do matters, and it inspires and affects others.
I went to the No Kings rally in D.C. on the Mall, and it was amazing how many of your quotes were on signs that day. I mean, I took pictures, and in fact, I put a lot of them up in Hopium, because you really touched a nerve. You touched people. And I think that when we look back at the evolution of how we got to where we are now, where Democrats have clearly, have found a higher gear, are fighting in the way that I think is necessary and required given what Trump's doing to the country. Your speech, I think, was one of these critical moments to help us understand what was possible and what we had to do now, right? Regardless of, various strategies and polling or whatever else. These are the things we just have to do as proud patriots. And so I think we saw another evolution with a good friend of yours, Gavin Newsom, this summer, where the Texas Democrats and Governor Pritzker and Governor Newsom, I think, also then helped us find a higher gear this summer. And here we are now with the Senate and the House, as you pointed out, putting it in clear terms to the president that we're not going to stand by while he does so much harm to the country. You're sitting in the Senate now. What's your assessment about where we are in this battle?
Well, I think it's people, like the fact that so many Americans over this last week to 10 days have started to speak out and saying, wait a minute, Do something. Don't let my premiums double. Don't let millions more Americans be shaken off of insurance. That this is a problem of Republican creation, where the twin tsunami of the Medicaid cuts coming in 26 and the ACA premiums running out in 26, this twin tsunami is going to cause, excuse me, an impact on our country beyond which many people are talking about. In other words, when that many people lose insurance, it affects our hospitals. It increases emergency room wait time. That many people being pushed off health insurance raises premiums for everybody. Small businesses who get their health insurance through the ACA networks exchanges are going to have an extremely difficult time. So they want people to fight, and the sort of callous disregard of Republicans to say business as usual. We're not going to do anything. In fact, we're not just going to not do anything, but we're not even going to come together with you to talk about how together we can fund the government. That kind of recalcitrance and frankly just patent disregard and cruelty is where the line of fight is right now. And I've been so encouraged up and down New Jersey, even people across the political spectrum, Republican board members for hospitals in New Jersey saying to me, don't let this happen. And I think that has made this first week really remarkable to me, to see the commitment of people to the fight.
You know, I've been struck as somebody who's been in Washington for a long time, how unprepared the Republicans were for us saying no. I mean, I don't think there was a plan. I don't think they even imagined it could happen. And, you know, the House got so freaked out that they got sent home for another week, right? The cowardly speaker, you know, ran away instead of ran towards the fight. And they've looked flummoxed and, you know, and not really sure what to do, because what's happened is, to your point, and you hit this beautifully in the very beginning, is that what we're now talking about is not about shutdowns or budgets or the Republicans. We're talking about the harm they're doing to the country, the tariffs that have raised prices, the attack on healthcare, the savage assault on our democracy and our liberties and our freedoms. And we're now making them defend it. And they're having a really hard time defending it. I mean, if you watch these guys on television, they are really struggling to make their case now. And so I think this has been brilliant by Leader Schumer and Leader Jeffries in getting us to this place. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, first of all, I just want to highlight what you just said is like, look, they know in their own states, in fact, Republican-led states with Republican governors have a higher percentage of people that rely on ACA subsidies and Medicaid. And so they're hurting their own people, they're hurting their own states. And the more that a spotlight is put on that, the more uncomfortable they're, like a deer caught in a headline, like, I don't have an answer for you. I don't have an answer on healthcare. I don't have an answer on your rising costs. I don't have an answer about how your family is having harder and harder time making ends meet. And I can't answer the fact that my farmers are hurting because of Donald Trump's tariffs. I can't answer the fact that energy costs are going up because of Donald Trump canceling energy projects. All of these things are just exposing them for who they are and what they're doing, all the while helping, simply, frankly, the wealthiest in this country, who are the only people who have really seen a benefit from his policies. So I don't know how this ends, but I know as something that many people who listen to this is, when we fight, we win. When we stand together, when we stand strong, we win. And when I say we, I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm talking about every American who recognizes the crisis that we're in, that these aren't normal times. And I saw this when they went after Jimmy Kimmel, that even Republicans that I rarely agree with, like Ted Cruz, who are calling out, this is not right or left, this is just wrong. It's happening now to see him underwater on his main issue, which is immigration.
Yep.
Because most Americans know that what's going on in our cities is masked people jumping on unmarked cars, attacking, putting children in zip ties that are American children that happen to have one undocumented parent, that this is wrong. And so we're getting more and more to the point where most Americans are seeing so many of these issues are not right or left, they're right or wrong. And the more we keep that spotlight on that truth, and don't break this down to a partisan issue, but you Republicans, you are either serving this man that wants you to bend the knee to him, or you're serving your people. The more they get exposed for that, the less they become complicit and capitulate to Donald Trump, because right now they're more afraid of Donald Trump than they are from the backlash of their own constituents. Well, we want to wake those folks up and let them know that the pain they're experiencing right now at the kitchen table as they go over their budget, the pain they're experiencing in trying to keep their health care or pay for their affordable drugs, the pain they're feeling with their energy costs going up is the pain being caused by Donald Trump and complicit Republicans. And if they speak up and they join our fight, I think the way this ends is that we win the fight.
Amen, brother. I mean, to that. And I think we are in this fight for the next 13 months now. I mean, the general election has really begun. We're going to be having one big conversation, which is about the harms they've done to the country and about our agenda to make things better. And that finally, right, we're in the fight we all wanted to have. And so it's, I interviewed 3 House members over the last week, and each interview, you got the sense that each time they were more confident that they had made the right decision in the fight. Yeah. Do you get that sense with your Senate colleagues?
It's early signs, and I've just been back here in Washington for a matter of hours, but I'm seeing a lot of sign of strengthening resolve because people have been home to their states and have heard what they've heard. And they also know when we did this in 2018 in those midterms, what we did and what, frankly, the exception to the rule in John McCain, Murkowski, and Collins, the fact that 3 Republicans saved healthcare for millions of Americans by joining Democrats, that exposed the hypocrisy of the Republican Party and exposed them for the frauds that they are. They're not fighting for working Americans. And so this is one of those moments where if we continue to tell the truth and shine the spotlight on the people of this country and their struggles and how they're being like an accelerant that Donald Trump is just continuing to make things worse, an inferno of challenges that people are facing, I think then that's a winning formula. And so I'm hoping, but again, frankly, not just you, but people who are listening to this and reading this, we all have an obligation right now to lift our voices, share more content, expose this for what it is. I just want to point out to the absurdity of what they are saying, really by implicating Ronald Reagan by saying, oh, no, this is about illegal immigrants. This is about the Democrats wanted to give illegal immigrants health care. It is such a bald-faced lie that right. Once I watched George Stephanopoulos do this, like you're just sitting here lying. You know that that's not the truth. The Democrats are saying they want to save the Affordable Care Act again, save Medicaid again. They're fighting for Americans. Why are you bringing up this tired trope? They are losing arguments to defend against the power of our truth. That you are hurting Americans, you are hurting Americans' wallets, hurting American healthcare, and all we're asking is to do something to help Americans. I think that's gaining momentum.
They are squealing like a stuck pig. There's no question about it. And they have looked very wobbly and disorganized in the last few days, shockingly so, in my view. They weren't ready. 2 last questions before I know you got a TV hit. You were the mayor of a city. Talk about your feelings and your recommendations to the family about what you're seeing with the masked folks on the streets, the military on our streets. We've got J.B. Pritzker and now the folks in Oregon and California fighting an unprecedented battle. I mean, just what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, look, I want everybody to know that Donald Trump is defunding the police. What do I mean that? Let me be very specific. He is moving FBI agents, ATF agents. He is taking officers and resources away from all these federal agencies that I know that keep our streets safe, everything from counterterrorism to investigating sex offenders. He is moving those people into immigration enforcement in the interior of our country in a manner and in places that do not jive with our shared values. And so the first thing I as a former mayor who detailed people with the FBI, detailed people with the ATF, detailed people with drug enforcement, that to see these agencies hollowed out and people being shifted over, 10, 20, 30% of some of these agencies or more are being put into immigration enforcement. And now he's moving our military into these cities. You want to talk about eroding community trust, community cohesion. You want to talk about undermining the safety and the strength of cities. He's actually doing that. So this is an assault on our public safety, on our shared values, And in truth, it's really an assault on our democratic ideals, and it's a violation. And this is, again, some of the judges he's appointing are starting to begin to say things that he can't do this. So this is Donald Trump again acting in an authoritarian fashion. And I know this from a great quote by Frederick Douglass, whose picture hangs in my office. He said, "The limits of tyranny are prescribed by the people who the tyrants want to oppress." What is our endurance? Are we going to put up with this, or are we going to speak out in a nonviolent but loud chorus of condemnation for what he's doing? If we do that, again, he won't get away with this.
Well, the CBS News poll on Sunday, he was down, 60-40 on the use of troops, 60-40 on sending the National Guard into cities. And that's before this has really even gotten bad. I mean, it's really remarkable how I think he's lost his power of persuasion, that there is a clear majority now that is just not going to be with him on anything anymore. And the revulsion in the American people to his immigration agenda, to his authoritarian tactics, every time he does some kind of strongman thing, it kicks around for a few days in the polling, and then the country makes their decision that they're not on board. And I think it's been very assuring to me to see this kind of groundswell of opposition across the country to these strongman tactics. And I think that Democrats have a lot of running room here to provide support for J.B. Pritzker, for Governor Pritzker and Governor Newsom and the good people of Oregon, because if we can't stop them, they're going to keep escalating. And I think this becomes a very important part of the new battle that we're going to be in over the next few months.
And I want to say something, because you and I have talked about this for a long time. And when I was a mayor, I had to balance budgets and invest taxpayer money in things that would provide the biggest return. I cut the size of Newark's government dramatically, created more efficiency in my departments. So I just want to appeal to your fiscal prudency for a second. Most people don't realize it costs millions of dollars a day to deploy the National Guard in a city like that. If Donald Trump instead wanted to invest federal dollars, instead of misusing them, what he should be doing is investing in those bedrock programs like COPS grants, burn JAG grants, money that goes to our first responders in those communities to give them more resources to investigate crimes, get guns off our streets, and the like. These are evidence-based programs and strategies that we know keep people safer. So he is burning taxpayer dollars. I watched in Washington, D.C. as National Guard members picked up trash and did other things, as opposed to investing in Washington, D.C.'s police department. This is a gross waste of taxpayer dollars that do not, in the end, inure to the safety of our communities.
Okay, last question. Mikie Sherrill, you were home. The last Fox poll last week had her up 8. I can just, looking at her social media, she is smiling. She's happy. She looks like she's winning. I mean, just there's a good vibe coming from that campaign in recent days. What's your assessment?
I will tell you this right now. You and I both know this. There's only 2 ways to run up or run for office: unopposed or afraid. I take nothing for granted. We have one candidate in the Republican who's saying, "I'm 100% MAGA." That's a direct quote. This is a guy who's targeting New Jersey's major tunnel project between New York and New Jersey, took away our state and local tax deduction. Do not let a guy that's 100% Donald Trump and frankly would credit his victory to Donald Trump get into that office. Please don't take this race for granted. No matter what the polls say, work like we're behind. We got to get out the vote in November, because America's watching this New Jersey election, and we've got to show them that she doesn't just win, but she trounces a guy who gets in bed with Donald Trump and is willing to do his bidding.
I'm just, I've known her because when I was at the committee and at the DCCC in 2018 as a strategist, I was involved in helping recruit and develop the strategy that produced Alyssa Slotkin and Mikie Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger. And I'm just, one of the things, many of them were new to office, right? They hadn't run before. They were proud patriots who had decided to go serve their country in new ways. And what I'm so pleased in watching her is just the fact that she's having fun and that she's enjoying this, because this is hard. And this is a very hard time for all of us, for all of you, right? To be serving. It's an unprecedented threat. And I'm just, for somebody who's still new to this business and finding her way through everything, the smiles and the joy that have been coming from the campaign the last few days is just it's made me feel confident that that they're comfortable, they have a strategy to go win. And that,
sorry to interrupt. I said this during Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation hearing, where Republicans were trying to drown her in darkness. Is do not let anybody steal your joy. Do not let anybody. Here was this historic moment. I was not going to let them steal my joy. And what I've learned, especially from parents who are activists in the civil rights movement that saw so many challenges, so many dark days, that joy, choosing joy, is one of the great acts of defiance you can do in any cause that is just.
It's a great way to end. Senator, thank you for all that you're doing, the inspiration you continually provide us, the leadership that we so desperately need. You know, if you ever got anything you want to come back and talk about, we'll have you back anytime. And good luck on Anderson Cooper tonight.
Thanks. It's good to see you. I'm glad I was with you.
I know we're long overdue for a catch up. Okay, Senator. See you. Thanks, everybody. Please like, share, subscribe, do everything you can to help lift up our senators and House members in this critical moment in this battle. Call their offices, tell them that you want them to keep fighting. And we all need to keep fighting too. We have to win the fall together, win these fall elections, win this debate with the Republicans on the budget, and do what's right for the American people. Thanks, everybody.